looks like she's available now. We'll turn to her. And again, I do not know what Heather's going to say. I really don't. All I know is that she requested time in this meeting, and she has been a valiant advocate for liberty in this state. And I thank her for that. And so, Heather, be patient with us while we kind of get you up here, and then I'll let you know when you're live. And yeah, if you could dim the lights. Hey.
Can you hear us? Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, perfect.
We can hear you. Is there any way to get her on the...
Yep, I got her.
We're going to get you up on the projector. Okay. Can you make it where it's just her and not us?
Yeah.
Okay, one second.
But we'll let her see the crowd.
Yeah, she can still see us.
Yes. Okay. We can hear you.
Almost there, Heather. Or Representative Scott.
Hi. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. You're live now, so go ahead and address us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Well, I should be clapping for you guys. You are where the real power is. I had a phone call this morning from Jeff Mack, and we were talking about what's going on in our state and everything, and he said, hey, would you be interested in speaking to my group tonight? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. I did not know it was this group. So I'm glad to see. I've been listening in, and it sounds like you guys are pretty organized and know what you're doing. And I didn't really have a huge agenda, but I don't know what you've covered so far. I was just gonna hit on some of the stuff that happened in this session. From Jeff and my conversation, you know, I think the big thing we came down to is our state's in serious trouble and our nation's in serious trouble, and I think you all realize that. And I would just encourage you all, as we have got to do everything possible that we can within the system before it completely falls apart. Keeping in mind where our lines in the sand are, what we will put up with and what we won't, but we have got to give it one last push. We've allowed this. We've been complacent for way too long. I know I have been. I've only been involved for probably 6 years or 6 or 7 years now, and I think we're in a sad place, and I think that we're losing. And so, that being said, I just wanted to encourage you. First, I'm going to talk a little bit just about what happened at session, and then just encourage you what I think you can do. I guess maybe I'll hit that first is we need to secure our communities. We need to secure our county commissioners. We need to secure good sheriffs, good mayors that will not enforce unconstitutional edicts put out by the UN, the CDC, a tyrannical governor, a health district that has no authority. And so we need good people that will protect us within the jurisdictional boundaries we are within. And I think, are most of you from Gem County? Is that the case?
All over.
All over. Okay, because I was just, you know, the state needs some help too, and maybe we'll get into that after I touch on just what happened. So I'm just going to briefly say what happened. Ultimately, I think the government wanted a immunity bill to protect itself. My county is up in North Idaho, is very politically active. My county commissioners are suing the governor for misspending of money. I've got 2 businesses suing him for non-essential businesses, shutting down churches. I think there's another lawsuit for that. So there's at least 3 lawsuits against the governor. I've heard of other lawsuits in the works for some of the big businesses, such as the hospitals not treating patients for problems that they needed treatment for due to COVID. So I truly think that weight and that pressure was coming down, and I don't know, the other pressure I think that was kind of instigating this special session was iCrimp. And I don't know if you are aware of who iCrimp is. It's one of the largest insurance companies in our state. They carry almost every county in the state. Now, my county commissioners do not pay into iCrimp, but almost all the rest, I think at least 40 counties buy into iCrimp. So do the small the small library districts, the small sheriff's departments, different jurisdictions of government all buy into this iCrimp insurance. I think the problem that the insurance companies were starting to see, and a lot of the schools use these guys too, is if all of a sudden there were a lot of lawsuits for all the injustices, for closing down businesses and for denying services and for school issues, that they would not have the assets to cover those lawsuits. It would put them out of business. And they started, I think, whispering in the ear of some of the schools, and all of a sudden we needed an immunity bill. And so I think the government knew this was coming, and probably about maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, there started to be rumblings of maybe a special session. You know, the governor's like, well, I didn't even know they wanted a special session. I don't know what he's thinking. And so they decided they'd set up these working groups. And so they set up different working groups of the legislature, which you don't usually do, but these working groups were working on the bills that the governor wanted passed. One of which was the immunity bill, and then the other big one was the voting thing. I think the voting bill was just cover for this immunity bill. The other bad part about this immunity bill is it was going to cause businesses to be enforcers of government edicts and proclamations and unconstitutional rules and regulations. So just to simplify it, it was something like, well, if you are a business that enforces what the health district tells you and you do a good faith effort, then you can't be sued. But if you don't do a good faith effort, which would mean not vaccinating or not, whatever the government decided, if you were a business that said, no, we're not going to do that, then you could be sued. And so this was, I think, the instigation. The big lobby group behind this was IACI. You guys should learn that term, Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. It is the largest lobby group, big corporations running this state. They are supporting all the establishment candidates, and you can go right onto the Secretary of State's site and find the information of who they're supporting. It is what is running this state. It's big companies, it's the big hospitals, it's like Micron, it's the big corporations in this state. And so they like this bill because this would put the little guys out of business. This would put any mom and pop shop that couldn't keep up with the regulations, anyone that wouldn't fall in line to what the government was spouting off, then they could be sued. And so this is one way that big corporations use bills and use the legislature to put their little guys out of business to make them bigger. Thankfully, to the efforts of the citizens, bringing this to the attention of the public over a month ago, that this could possibly be immunity for the government's bad actions. And then they just kept it up and educated and called their legislators. It made a huge difference. So by the time, when we went through these committees, these working committees, it was pretty much a done deal. They would not let us discuss anything except the exact language that they wanted. The committee chairman of Judiciary and Rules was very clear that we couldn't discuss any other issues. We had specific language, which was a real problem. It showed many of us that this was a done deal, what they wanted. Ultimately, what came out of session was a watered down bill that did not give the government immunity, did not give the big corporations, it did not reward the enforcers of government, which is what they wanted. And it basically just said, if you're a business and someone tries to sue you for coronavirus, for getting coronavirus, they can't. So it really didn't do a lot, and I think a lot of that was thanks to your efforts. And I say, I can see clapping, I can't hear it, but the testimony was unbelievable. It's a shame that everything got overshadowed with the police and all the drama, but the testimony, I've sat down there now for 6 years, and usually the testimony is not what we had over this last session. This extraordinary session. It's usually a lot of people from downtown Boise that are professional testifiers, I think. And they always lean in one direction, and they never give facts. It's a lot of emotion. I mean, there's sometimes facts, but for the most part, it's a lot of emotions, and it's definitely the other side. So this was the first time I heard really powerful testimony from everyday citizens, and regardless of what the papers say about it, you were right on topic. I was amazed with how quickly the agendas were changing, how much the citizens actually followed what bill was being presented, and they did very well. So that was a success, even though it was not the best bill that got passed. It was a success that we stopped the Idaho Association of Commerce and Development's or Industries bill, because that is a huge win for the people and for the little guys. A couple other bills, we ended up stopping a voting bill. Now the State Affairs Committee ran a lot smoother, and it was very, a lot of testimony was given, and it was well-run committee, and the bill that was being pushed, and it was being pushed by Phil McGrain, who is, I think he's the county clerk for Ada County. And so that's, a lot of times you don't realize it's not your legislators that are writing bills. It is lobbyists. It is people in the community with agendas that maybe are not the people's agendas. It's big corporations. But Phil McGrain is I think he's the county clerk in Ada County, and he wanted voting centers. Now, what voting centers are, they're regional voting centers. And what they do, they could put a voting center anywhere. They could combine units, but you could go anywhere and vote in the county for your precinct instead of going to your designated location. There's pros and cons, but I'd say the biggest thing is it regionalizes voting, which means they had to go to electronic poll books. There wasn't a lot of information given about these electronic poll book machines, but it is all digital, and there's concerns there, and we ended up killing that bill, but it's something to watch for. Anytime regional government is set up, it's taking the control from the localized area, and they're putting it in a region. It's easier for government, but government's supposed to be hard. Government's supposed to be, you're supposed to have the executive branch fighting with the legislative branch, not working hand in hand against the people. And I'll get to that. So that's the third bill. The House Resolution 1 to end the emergency. So this passed through the House 48 to 20 to 2. So that's a concurrent resolution. There is a way to end the emergency, and it's through a concurrent resolution, which means the House and the Senate both have to sign the same the same paperwork, the same resolution. The House passed it, and the Senate unanimously voted to table it, which means we're not interested in signing it. That's every single senator, not one senator in the state, not any senator, every one of them said, yeah, let's table it. We don't want to end the emergency. That's a tragedy. And that should tell you something, that elections have consequences. Yep. And these people just got elected for another 2 years. And hopefully you can talk to your senator. Here's what they did do. So don't fall for this. When you go talk to them and they're going to say, well, we passed a resolution that said we want to end the emergency. Well, they have to sign a concurrent resolution, which means the House and Senate have the same paperwork. What they did to give themselves cover is they signed a Senate resolution. It basically is just the Senate signing it. It doesn't even have the option to get the House sign it too. So they will say, well, we signed a resolution that said we're against it. That's cover. That is cover for their real actions. And what their real actions were is they tabled that House that House concurrent resolution that would have ended the emergency. So that's a big deal, and I hope you pay attention to that. I think that's about all for my update from session. Trying to think if there was, I think that's the big thing. Just the testimony was amazing. It was really sad for me to see so many people in Ada County with masks on. Up north, nobody's wearing masks. Nobody in my county wears a mask. Bonner, Boundary, I mean, there might be a couple here or there, but it's not common. Boise it's just a different world down there, and it's really sad that people are falling for this lie, I guess you could say. So, there was a couple other things I wanted to hit on. Just, that we have to do everything we can. We really need to look. I know everyone's interested in the state right now, but our elections have consequences. We've just elected everybody for 2 years. And if you know that you don't appreciate what your senator did, do not forget that. Prepare someone today that's willing to run against them in a year, because they're up for election in a year, and have that person shadow them, watch what they're doing, report back, expose them for their voting record, and start running for office today for 2 years from now. I don't know if we have 2 years left the way things are headed, but I'll tell you this, you get a good sheriff in there who will protect your rights. You get some county commissioners that will deny. My county would not take the bribe money from the governor. It's illegal what he's doing, and they've actually filed a suit against it. And so you need to be in your county, you need to be going to your city council meetings, you need to be going to your county commissioner meetings and following the money and say, we do not want you to accept that money. It's all listed online, and you have to go to these meetings in order to make a difference. You have to watch what they're doing in their budgets to make a difference. And we can change this. We just cannot give up. We have to fight smart. We have to learn the system. Many of us do not know the system, and it's hard when you don't know the system to fix the system. There's bad people in government and there's bad issues, but the biggest problem is the bad system and the corrupt system. And so we need people not only to focus on their issues and candidates, but we also need people that are willing to step out and work on the system, learn the processes, teach the processes to the group, and get involved. And I always say not everybody has to do everything. If just do the one thing that you can do. Because I truly believe all power is in the people. And when we start exercising that power, we're unstoppable. Yeah. But we have to do it in a focused and a strategic way. We have to be smart about it. And I think that's it. I've got a lot to say, but maybe if there's a couple questions, I'd be happy to answer questions, or I can just catch you next time. I can't hear anything, so I don't know if you have questions.
Heather, can you hear me now? Can you hear us now?
I can hear, yep.
Okay, so we'll take a couple of questions if you're willing, and let's just keep it to 4 or 5 if we can. Mario, you're going to probably have to come up because she's not going to be able to hear you.
Yeah. Everyone's getting ready to come up.
Anybody else who has a question, come on up. Just come stand over here, and then we'll go from here. Come over here.
Hey, Heather. I was wondering, what was the sentiment of the reps in regards to the protests that were going on? Were they talking about people pushing or being held outside of the gallery? Were they talking about the freedom of the press protests? And what if they were, what was the sentiment of that? Thank you.
So I don't know that there was a lot of talk about it because I think nobody really knew it was, not everybody knew it was going on. It was like, wow, what's happening? And like when I walked into committee, I just walked into a bunch of police officers standing in the front of committee and people screaming and they were angry. And I never really did get the full story till I talked to some of the people the following week. So, there was a lot of confusion, and I don't know that anyone was scared. I think many of us were wondering why are they locked out of the gallery? I mean, that was a little confusing at first, like why everyone's always allowed up there. What are they doing? So that was a little bit of talk and chatter amongst us. But as for the committee, it wasn't like, I mean, they realized something had happened, but nobody really knew exactly what. Now, when we found out, of course, unfortunately, the media got to it first, and they can take one arrest or one person, and they can focus around that and try to discredit a whole group. And I think that was the message I was trying to say is, hey, we had a ton of good testimony, a ton of good citizens that have never showed up and testified before. I did not want that message to be lost because the media, of course, focuses on the message that they want. And I don't know how much this group has gone and dug into it, but the Department of Homeland Security, they have what's called a lexicon. And this lexicon has terms that they have definitions for. And if you notice, the media uses these same terms, alt-right and extremist and terrorist. And what they're trying to do is ultimately, they want to put you in a category, probably not during this presidency, but during one that will not be as conservative, you will be on the domestic terrorist list. And so that's why I noticed when sometimes you guys got up to testify, they said, oh, say the group you're with. They want to tag you, they want to label you. And I know we all say, well, whatever, I don't care if they label me. They've called me white supremacist, white extremist, or white nationalist, all these names. But the problem with these names, and every time they tag you in an article with it, and try to group you, is it actually has definitions for domestic terrorism. And that lexicon is still public. And until that's changed at the federal level, maybe this presidency, they're not enforcing it, but they will at some point, and they will put you on that list. And so that's why it's critical that you understand the process, you work within the boundaries. Is there a time to make a point or to stand your ground? Yes, but I would pick your battles because the media is always going to tag you. That doesn't mean you don't stand up, but there are ways to work smart, and there are ways to expose the injustices and the corruption without letting the media turn it into something it's not. And so I guess back to your original question, not a ton of chattering between just, yeah, it's just like business as usual. We gotta get back and get our bills done. So, I'm sure after the fact, people go back and read the articles and then they'll make their own decisions.
Thank you. Another question.
Hi there. I really wanted to tell you I appreciate you, and I'm grateful that you're here with us.
Thank you.
My question is kind of broad. Hopefully you have some idea of what I'm trying to say. I'm a little bit nervous. But so basically, after everything that happened, I sat down and I wrote to 12 senators. And I basically said, shame on you. Do you think that we're not watching what you're doing and you're tabling what we asked you to do? And I got 3, and one went fishing for, who are you? Are you part of some group? And they'll take your money and tell you what to say and give you an agenda. So she started fishing. Another one did a cut, copy, and paste and sent it to me and a couple of my friends. And then I actually got one human response from one senator. So I guess my question to you is, the cop-outs were, A, I don't have an assistant that helps me with my emails. B, you are not going to get any response unless you tell me where you live and what your district is. And C, the whole concept that they could not be bothered otherwise. Do you have any grasp on, and the other cop-out was, and sorry if this is you, I have a full-time job and this is just something I do. So, I don't know about you guys, but where I moved from, the senators made a shit ton of money. So if you could shine some light on those things, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, I'd love to. So Idaho is a part-time legislature, and what that means is we're only in session January, February, and March. And they pay us $17,000 a year total. So that means we make about $250 a week. That being said, we get no staff. We have no secretaries. I personally get 300 to 400 emails every day. I get 30 to 40 phone calls a day, and I get hundreds of those Facebook messengers and texts a day. So, is that true that they don't have time or assistance? Absolutely. Absolutely. So maybe the reason they're saying, well, are you from my district? I try to explain this in many groups is, think of Nancy Pelosi. Does she care what you think? I know it's kind of far-stretched, but you don't live in her jurisdiction. You can't vote for her. You can't elect her or re-elect her. Why does she care if you write her a letter? And so a lot of legislators get that same attitude. It's always about re-election. It's always about getting re-elected. And the only thing I think that some legislators understand is, they don't want negative press. They don't want bad things being said about them. And maybe they don't have the time. Maybe they do have full-time jobs, because a lot of legislators do, because they can't afford to live on $250 a week. And so there's some legitimacy to that, but they probably are saying, you're not in my district, go complain to your legislator. And so I give a perfect example is, I get a lot of people that complain to me about some of the Boise, the Democrats in Boise and how they vote. And I say, they don't represent you. I represent you. And the people they're representing, really, they're working for those people because they really are anti-guns and they really hate liberty. And, so there is some truth to that. The best thing I can encourage you to do is build a relationship with your legislators now. They're out of session. Meet them for coffee, get to know them on a personal level. They're not that far removed. If you're only contacting them when you have a problem or when you want them to vote a certain way, you've not built a relationship. If I represented you and you're in my district and you're down at the Capitol and the door was locked and you've had a relationship with me and you're like, we're trying to get in and the cops won't let us in, you would call me and I would go up to the speaker and say, why are the doors locked? And I could put pressure, or I could say, my people are upstairs, they want to get through. That's the kind of relationship you want with your legislators. Even if you don't agree with them, even if you're going to replace them in 2 years. Because for 2 years, you're stuck with them. And so that's the one beauty in Idaho. You can replace every single legislator every 2 years. 105 people can be replaced in 1 year. And so that's huge. And so I hope that answers your question. So it would depend on the legislator, but if they had enough time to write you back, sometimes you just do an auto reply because you get hundreds and hundreds of emails. The best way is to build that relationship with them. So you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Senator Thing, why did you vote this way? Or, Abby Lee, why did you vote to table this? We are watching. I don't appreciate this. Can you give me your reasoning? Or, half these senators, you go look at their voting records, it doesn't surprise me how they voted. Because people down there are not paying attention to their senators. People across the state are not paying attention. And so, we're not getting good candidates to run against them. And some of them have been in there a long time, and they're all rated Fs with the Freedom Foundation. So,
Okay, next question.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Hello. So real quick, so would it make sense to meet again, since it says in Title 46 that the legislator by concurrent resolution may terminate the state of disaster emergency at any time? I mean, I doubt the Senate would want to meet, but does it make sense to try?
So,
By the way, thank you.
that's the reality, and that's why 15 of us showed up down there to do the proclamation. We were hoping we could get enough legislators down there to have a quorum to actually meet and discuss these issues. The problem is you're trying to organize 105 people across the state to get them to come back to Boise. And that's almost impossible to do without good leadership. Now, the leadership in the Senate, he did not rerun, and he's the one that made the motion to put the bill on the table. So I'm guessing he's not going to call the senators and say, hey, maybe we should meet. Okay? The Speaker of the House in the House, he allowed that bill to go through to end the emergency, and he voted for it. But you always got to not only watch what they do, to listen to what they say, you got to follow them. And the next day on the radio, you know what the Speaker of the House said? That was symbolic. Well, it wasn't symbolic for me. I was voting yes to end the emergency. But that Speaker, the Speaker of the House said that was a symbolic vote. No, that's not, maybe for him. And so those are the kind of things you really got to know, because these people will talk out of both sides of their mouth. And they'll put on a show one day, and I bet a lot of you think your senators are really conservative, and chances are they're not. No, there's probably absolutely no way we could get called back into special session. Here's the other thing you got to remember is a lot of these